A billionaire's private island. Underage girls flown in on private jets. A black book containing the names of presidents, princes, and CEOs. And a conspiracy so vast that when the main perpetrator died in federal custody, half the world refused to believe it was suicide. This is the story of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring, a criminal enterprise that operated for decades in plain sight, protected by wealth, power, and a justice system that failed dozens of children. Jeffrey Epstein's public identity as a financier concealed his role as the mastermind of an extensive international exploitation ring. His residences, including those in Palm Beach, Manhattan, New Mexico, and his private island in the Caribbean, served as hubs for a pipeline of young, vulnerable victims. These individuals were methodically groomed and subjected to horrific abuse before being supplied to other powerful figures. The case continues to provoke intense scrutiny due to the reach of his network, the status of those involved, and the systemic failures that allowed these crimes to persist for years. The operational methods of Jeffrey Epstein's trafficking network were meticulously planned and deeply disturbing. Starting in the 1990s, Epstein and his principal associate, British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, established a recruitment process that deliberately targeted vulnerable young women from unstable home environments, including foster care and economically struggling communities. Their initial contact followed a consistent pattern. These individuals were offered a payment of $200 to $300 for what was presented as providing massage services at Epstein's residence. Once inside, a gradual process of grooming would begin. The earliest appointments might involve legitimate massages, but Epstein would progressively appear in various states of undress, deliberately blurring personal boundaries. This led to subsequent encounters where the victims were subjected to sexual assault. Epstein would pay them significant sums of money following these abuses, establishing a transactional dynamic that was psychologically disorienting and used to manipulate the victims. To further obscure the criminal nature of his actions, many were deceitfully told they were assisting him with a purported medical condition. The network's operations extended even further. Victims were coerced into bringing others into the scheme, receiving a financial incentive for each new individual they recruited. This pyramid-like structure ensured a steady stream of new victims and created a sense of complicity, making it less likely for those involved to come forward. Some recruits were responsible for bringing in dozens of others, enabling the network to expand its reach from local Florida communities to modeling agencies in New York. The international dimension of the operation was extensive. Young women were transported on Epstein's private aircraft to his various estates. Official flight records document these journeys, which included destinations such as his ranch in New Mexico, his residence in Manhattan, and most infamously, his private island, Little St. James. On the island, victims have reported being forced to attend gatherings with influential men where they were subjected to organized abuse and were compelled to provide companionship or entertainment for other wealthy and powerful individuals. What made Epstein's trafficking ring particularly shocking was the caliber of his associates. His black book and flight logs read like a who's who of global power. Former presidents, British royalty, Nobel Prize winners, Hollywood stars, titans of industry, and academic luminaries. While being in Epstein's orbit doesn't prove participation in trafficking, the extent of these relationships raised disturbing questions. Prince Andrew's relationship with Epstein became particularly controversial when Virginia Giuffre alleged she was trafficked to the prince 3 times when she was 17. Despite photographic evidence of them together and Giuffre's detailed testimony, Andrew denied the allegations in a disastrous BBC interview that led to his withdrawal from public duties. Bill Clinton flew on Epstein's jet numerous times, though he denied knowledge of Epstein's crimes. Donald Trump called Epstein a terrific guy who liked women on the younger side, before later claiming they had a falling out. Billionaire Les Wexner, who gave Epstein power of attorney over his fortune, claimed Epstein misappropriated millions, but never explained how a college dropout became his financial advisor. In 2005, an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein was initiated by Palm Beach police following a report from the parents of a 14-year-old girl. Detective Joseph Recare's investigation identified more than 40 underage victims, some of whom were only 13. The evidence gathered was substantial, including victim statements, contact information for numerous young women, and other compromising photographic evidence. Based on this, federal prosecutors drafted a 53-page indictment that could have resulted in a life sentence for Epstein. However, the subsequent resolution of the case raised serious legal concerns. In 2007, U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta approved a non-prosecution agreement that was widely criticized by legal experts for its exceptional leniency. Instead of facing federal charges, Epstein pleaded guilty to 2 state-level charges related to the solicitation of prostitution. His sentence amounted to 13 months in a county jail, with a work release provision that permitted him to leave the facility for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. The federal case was closed, and the agreement also provided legal protection for any potential accomplices. This agreement was brokered in secret, a process that violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act by failing to notify the victims. It was later revealed that Epstein's high-profile legal team had played a major role in crafting the terms of the deal. Acosta subsequently asserted he had been instructed that Epstein was connected to intelligence circles and was considered above his pay grade, though he never provided evidence to support this claim. The failure to stop Epstein represents a catastrophic breakdown at every level. Palm Beach prosecutors initially sought only a single charge despite dozens of victims. When Detective Recare pushed for more, the state attorney's office began attacking victims' credibility using their MySpace pages. Private investigators hired by Epstein harassed victims and families, following them, photographing them, even running them off roads. The psychological warfare was so intense, many victims refused to cooperate. Even after conviction, Epstein continued trafficking. Victims reported abuse during his work release. His probation officer approved trips to his island, where abuse continued. The system actively enabled continued trafficking. In 2018, investigative reporting by the Miami Herald's Julie Brown reignited public outrage. Her Perversion of Justice series detailed how prosecutors failed victims and showed the trafficking continued after Epstein's plea deal. Public pressure mounted, and in July 2019, federal prosecutors in New York arrested Epstein on sex trafficking charges. The new indictment detailed a conspiracy to traffic girls as young as 14, with prosecutors finding hundreds of nude photos of young girls in Epstein's Manhattan mansion. Bail was denied, with the judge noting Epstein's extreme wealth and risk of flight. For the first time, it seemed justice might prevail. Then, on August 10, 2019, Epstein was found dead in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center. Despite being on suicide watch weeks earlier, both cameras outside his cell malfunctioned, both guards fell asleep, and his cellmate was transferred hours before his death. The medical examiner ruled it suicide, but a pathologist hired by Epstein's brother claimed the injuries were more consistent with homicide. Ghislaine Maxwell's 2021 conviction for sex trafficking provided some justice, but raised more questions. Testimony revealed she actively participated in abuse, grooming girls and normalizing sexual contact. Victims described her as even more manipulative than Epstein. Yet Maxwell's trial carefully avoided naming clients. The decision not to pursue Epstein's clients has fueled conspiracy theories. How could a sex trafficking ring operate for decades without clients being prosecuted? The Jeffrey Epstein case represents the ultimate corruption of power. A serial pedophile operated a child sex trafficking ring for decades, protected by a justice system that valued his connections over victims' lives. Dozens of girls were failed by every institution meant to protect them. The questions remain. Who were Epstein's clients? Why did the justice system protect him? Was his death really suicide? How many more Epstein-like operations exist, protected by wealth and power? Until these questions are answered and all perpetrators prosecuted, there can be no real justice for Epstein's victims. The trafficking ring may be dismantled, but its shadow continues to expose the dark reality of how power operates in America. Click the subscribe button for more juvenile crime cases.